So, hey guys, welcome back to another show hosted by yours truly, Jamie Gallen, and the rest of the crew. Live sports have yet to return, but there's been some progress over the past week. The NBA has been in the news a lot as they announced a plan to return, and one star has been popular in trade rumors. Um, so, just starting off with John, what do you think of the Bradley Beal rumors?
Well, Bradley Beal, he's obviously one of the best shooting guards in the game. He's been disgruntled, but then again, he signed an extension for 2 years. It'll take a lot to get him. The Washington has reportedly been wanting Karis LeVert, Jarrett Allen, and Spencer Dinwiddie, all probably along with an extra pick or two. It'll be hard to get him, especially now with teams unsure of where the direction of the NBA is going to go. And it just came as a shock to probably many that Beal was again on the trading block. Although the Washington doesn't really want to necessarily trade him, they said they're not closing the opportunity to trade him as the Brooklyn has been trying to heavily get him.
Yeah, Beal sort of had his breakout season. I firmly believe he was an all-star snub. I think he averaged for the season shut down about 30 points per game, which is a crazy number. And I think this puts the Wizards in a sort of an interesting situation because if Beal is gone, there's no guarantee that Wall, once he recovers from his injury, will be the same player he once was. He's in his early 30s, and the Wizards might have to reprogram and rebuild. And they sort of thought they had their backcourt of the future, but it's not looking that way now, especially if Beal ends up going to another team like Brooklyn.
Right. I mean, in terms of you guys touched on the Washington part of it, in terms of the Brooklyn part of it, I would be a little bit hesitant to deal all that talent, LeVert, Allen, Dinwiddie, and a pick for Beal, who's only got another 1 or 2 years of control. And he's a great player, but the Nets already are going to get Kevin Durant back. They have Kyrie Irving, even though he's recovering from the shoulder injury. They played pretty well without both of those players for when the season was around. So I would be hesitant to deal that much. I know that they want to get a big three, but for that much talent, I'm not sure if it's worth it.
Well, I think that if they get a big three, they might be in win now mode because if they have Kevin Durant, Kyrie, and Bradley Beal, that might be enough to, even if it's just for 1 year or 2 years of them all being under contract from this, that might be enough for them to win a championship.
Adding Beal, though, that would probably destroy their cap space. He's another supermax contract player. They already have two others in Irving and Kevin Durant. If Washington does trade Beal to the Nets, they'll have no more cap space. They wouldn't be able to re-sign players like Spencer Dinwiddie as a sixth man. They wouldn't be able to get Rondae Hollis-Jefferson back, who's now on the Raptors, but they couldn't get a player like him. They wouldn't be able to get anyone. They'd probably have to get only veteran minimum players, and you can't win a championship without even just a slightly good bench.
Yeah. So also on top of that, the NBA released this past week that they hope to start up again in end of June, early July. So starting with you, Pat, what do you think about the NBA returning? That good news for sports.
Well, it is good news for sports, and honestly, it's pretty big because, it doesn't need to be said, but the NBA gets one shot of returning to normal play or close to normal. Obviously, you're not going to be returning with fans. And other sports leagues, whether it's in the U.S. or really around the world, those who haven't started back up yet, are going to be watching to see, all right, what did they do that we should replicate? What did they do that we can do better? And is this going to be a successful way to restart the season? So I think that the NBA sort of being one of the big four leagues to trailblaze a path into restarting play is pretty big news for not only NBA fans, but also sports fans.
The NBA actually has not had the exact starting date on when they're going to come back. They're still debating that, as they have just recently let most players come back to their facilities. I know Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum has been back to the TD Garden recently within this week. What they do want to do is what they have been talking about with players, owners, GMs, is how they're going to do the playoffs and how they're going to come back. Is it going to be 5 games per team? I heard Damian Lillard on Twitter say that he would not want to come back if he knows he's not going to make the playoffs. So why risk injury within like those 3 to 5 games that he gets to play? Also, how are they going to seed the playoffs? I heard rumors that they might try to do the 1 through 16 this year since they already had the weird kind of season. Or are they going to have 20-plus teams like the NHL is going to start doing? We don't know that yet. And this has all been in discussion within the past week with Adam Silver and everyone else in the league.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be interesting, to watch that plays out because I feel like a lot of sports are going to be, watching how that and the NHL, moves through. But last week there was the match tournament, which was televised with Tiger Woods, Jack Nicholson, and Brady and Manning. Just getting your guys' takes on that, starting with you, Yehuda. What do you think about, that match? And a lot of people got a lot of views because of just their interaction, man, with Brady and those guys throughout it, which made it pretty entertaining to watch.
I mean, it was great to have some form of sports back and some entertainment. I'm not the biggest golf person, but it was a great match. Bunch of funny bloopers, bunch of crazy plays. It was really good for the world just to get sports back again. It can give us a little taste of what will hopefully be in the next few weeks.
I actually liked it. I mean, I just caught it like towards the tail end of it, and I saw the highlights from it. More of the highlights was just the interaction between Manning and Brady, which was fantastic. Sports people loved it. They were taking shots from each other. Brady was hackling Manning. Manning was hackling back at Brady. Brady mentioned about him beating him all the time. Manning mentioned Nick Foles and Eli Manning as his caddy just to startle Tom Brady. It was a great time. I mean, the golf was actually pretty good. Manning's really good at golf. Brady, had a little slow day, but it was downpouring. But I think the main point was this was round 2 of Tiger versus Phil. And now it's 1-1 between the two. And I kind of want to see round 3.
Yeah, there's 1-1, so they might want to end up doing round 3 with different celebrities or professional athletes just to settle the score. I think I noticed that there was a lot of activity on Twitter based off of this. There was just a lot of people involved in the Twitter sports world that took an active part in this, and I think that it really was beneficial for sort of satisfying the appetite of sports fans because it sort of brought all sports, not all sports, sort of brought football and golf together.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like I said, my favorite part is probably just Brady and Manning going back and forth at that beginning when they said, who would you want your caddy to be? Manning, he goes Foles, he goes Belichick, he goes Gronk. Just seeing that was great to watch. I think great for people who miss sports. But also in the past week, some big news was that the NHL announced their plan to return and that the playoff format would be 24 teams rather than the traditional 16 teams. So, John, just starting with you, what do you think about the changes in how, teams like the Bruins they finish the season with the most points, but they still have to play a game to determine what seed they're even going to be?
Well, teams like the Bruins, they were on the top. They should automatically make the playoffs. And what was it, 24 you said teams were going to make it?
24.
I think they were planning on doing kind of like a round robin version of it, where I think the teams that weren't in the playoffs are going to get like 3 games against the teams that are also scraping to make the playoffs to see who would get the final seeds. It seems a little bit confusing, but I love the idea of having more playoff teams. You get more hockey from it. Playoff hockey is probably one of the most intense series like ever in sports. It's like probably unmatched to like even the Super Bowl, if you even like want to consider it that way.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing too I found about it is, Montreal. I mean, Toronto gets a lot of crap whenever they play Boston, and they play Columbus in the first round. So a lot of people are like, yeah, they might avoid Boston, but if they beat Columbus, they could play them. But I mean, I like the strategy a lot. I mean, you have some teams like Montreal that were on the playoff bubble that make it in, but I think after we've gone, 2+ months without sports, having more teams, it's not the traditional way. And it's maybe teams that won't be in the playoffs, but it's going to bring a lot more fans watching the playoffs to make it, a lot more engaging than, before this all happened. But also, sorry, last name, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that there could be a huge upset in this playoffs. You know, team's been away for 2.5 months. A team that was on the bubble could upset, say, like the Bruins. Like the Penguins can go for a run. Any team can really go for a run at this point if they make like the first round robin. It'll be interesting to watch.
The Rangers and Hendrik Lundqvist. Maybe they could finally get Lundqvist something with this new format.
Maybe.
Maybe. But also, so the NFL is 100 days back from coming back, and one of the Jets' most popular players, Jamal Adams, has been in the rumor mill with being dealt. We'll start this off with you, Nikita, but you think teams, what would the Jets ask for him, and how do you think a trade like that would impact the NFL?
Right. So before we even get to whether it's going to happen, Joe Douglas is being very meticulous with what he's doing. He's playing it very tactical. He's trying to stay away from the media spotlight in terms of trading him because keep in mind, he's got 2 years of control left. And his draft class, the best player in his draft class, Patrick Mahomes, hasn't gotten an extension yet. And he's a safety. Jamal Adams is a safety. He shouldn't be getting his crazy extension till at least next year. But he's for some reason demanding it now. So it's a question of whether he's going to try to hold out or he'll go and play out this next year. Or maybe the Jets will give in once COVID-19 settles down a little bit because especially with that, there's a ton of uncertainty. Now, what the teams are going to be interested in and stuff like that, obviously the Cowboys, his hometown team, are going to be interested. I'm sure that there's going to be 15 to 20 teams that are going to be in on him because he's an amazing talent. The Jets are probably going to ask for 2 firsts and a third, or a first and 2 seconds and a third, or something like that. They're going to want a lot of picks. Also, it was rumored at some point along the lines that they wanted to get a young player for him also, which would be interesting to see. I'm the Jets. I don't trade him. The Jets have an amazing safety tandem, and it would just ruin it, even though they did draft Ashton Davis, great safety, and I think was the 3rd round.
Yeah, I agree with you, Hood, on that one. The Jets have a great safety combination, and Jamal Adams is a really key part of that team. And honestly, I wouldn't trade him because if he gets traded, it puts the Jets in kind of a weird situation because we've been over this. The AFC East is wide open. If they trade Jamal Adams, that talent will go away because there's no real – you could argue the Bills, but there's no real front runner in the AFC East. And I think that not having Jamal Adams will definitely hurt the Jets' chances of coming away with the division title.